Let's cultivate our motivation. And in contemplating the kindness of other sentient beings, then let's remember that they don't have to have the specific idea in their mind to benefit just us in order for us to be the recipient of their kindness. That just by doing their jobs in society, the bottom line is that we reap the benefits of their actions, and thus they've been kind to us. And when we think of ways in which we haven't liked what they've done, then let's recall that they're doing their best, and that whatever they're doing, it's an effort on their part to be happy and avoid suffering, which is a motivation we can certainly understand. And while they may be overwhelmed about confusion and not know the real causes of happiness and suffering, then they act in ways that harm not only us but also themselves. And so seeing this, we can be more tolerant, be more forgiving, and still want to work for their benefit. And the best and most long-lasting way to do that is by fulfilling our spiritual potentials, becoming a fully awakened Buddha, so we'll have the qualities to best benefit all beings and be free from the hindrances that currently limit us. And so let's have that as our motivation for sharing the Dharma today. So before going into the meditation on love specifically, I just wanted to cover this little bit about the near enemy and the far enemy of love. Okay? So love is the wish for someone to have happiness and the causes of happiness. And the near enemy, is when instead of just loving them and wanting them to have happiness and its causes, there's stickiness involved. So the near enemy is possessiveness, attachment, clinging, expectations, this kind of thing. Which we so often fall into, don't we? So we have to be careful of that, because that is going to take us away from actually having love, because it's fallen into the side of attachment and possessiveness. So the remedy to that is to do the equanimity meditation, because that one is helping us to see that there's actually no reason to be attached to friends. And what we did yesterday morning, and seeing how the designation as friend and the subsequent attachment to those people is all something made up by our own mind, not something that exists out there in reality. So that's the antidote to the near enemy. And then for the far enemy is the opposite of love, which is going to be ill will, hatred, malice, those kind of mental states. And so the way to counteract that is through developing patience and fortitude. So you can read the book Working with Anger, or His Holiness's book Healing Anger, and they'll help you with that. Okay, so when we're cultivating love, we need to be aware and take precautions against both the near enemy and the far enemy. The far enemy is much easier to recognize, when we've gone into hatred and anger and critical, judgmental mind, we can notice that more. When we've gone to the close enemy, it's much more difficult to recognize, because we still feel attracted to the other person. We still care about them. It's just that our love has gotten polluted, So we still feel happy when we're with them, but the happiness has slipped into possessiveness and, attachment and so on, partiality. So we need to be careful about that one. And then a little bit about, we talked yesterday wanting sentient beings to have happiness and the causes of happiness. So we talked about the different kinds of happiness from sense pleasure, and then also happiness that comes from cultivating ourselves internally and making our own mind peaceful. Okay, so here we come to see that the problem is not that there's so many obnoxious people out there. The problem is that we have anger and hatred inside of us. The problem is not that the external objects that we want, we don't seem to be able to get. The problem is that we have so much craving and clinging to start with. Okay, so this way of seeing things helps us to see that as we, work on our mind and learn the Dharma and apply it to our mind and change our perspective, then we can overcome these different mental afflictions, these different disturbing emotions, and bring our mind to some kind of balanced state in which it isn't clingy and sticky, and it isn't like either, okay? But a mental state in which no matter what happens, we don't, go up and down like emotional yo-yos. So this brings much more internal harmony, and it also brings, makes our actions more harmonious with the world. Because so often when we have either anger or attachment, we're pushing our agenda. We're, I'm going to do what I have to do to get what I want no matter what. And that creates a lot of disturbance in our world, in our mind, and in other people's lives as well. Because the self-centered mind takes over, and then, pretty soon we're just bossing people around or manipulating them or, doing whatever we have to do in our attempt to arrange our external duckies the way we want to. We want them to be. And that just, brings a lot of difficulties in life. So one important factor here is don't think that every time you want something or desire something that's attachment. Okay, wanting something, aspiring for something is not the same as attachment. So aspiring to generate love is not attachment to love. Aspiring to go on retreat is not attachment to doing retreat. Okay? Clinging that I must have frozen yogurt every day, that one's attachment. Yeah. Clinging to, my child has to, be the best in the world, that's attachment. But when you're aspiring to develop virtuous qualities, that's not clinging. Because remember, the definition of attachment is that you exaggerate the good qualities of someone or something. Okay? When you're seeing the good qualities of someone or something fairly, that's not attachment. Okay? So attachment has this quality of I don't want to be separated from it, and I have to have it. Whereas, a virtuous kind of desire, that's a form of virtuous aspiration, that is moving us forward in a really good direction towards things that are helpful to ourselves and others. Okay, so it's really important to distinguish between these. Otherwise, we start thinking like, oh, I want to go to Dharma teachings. Well, that's attachment. And that's ridiculous. Because then we come to the conclusion, well, being a Buddhist must mean that you're just a bump on the log. You just sit there and you don't want anything. I was just in Mexico and I said this. They don't have the expression bump on a log like we do. Yeah. But it's a good expression, isn't it? You're just a bump on the log. So, okay. When we speak about, happiness and its causes, okay, then from a Buddhist viewpoint, the causes of happiness are ethical conduct and other virtuous activities. In ordinary life, mundane way of thinking, the causes of happiness is getting what we want by whatever means we have to use to get it, as long as those means don't, harm us too much, as long as we don't get caught. Yeah. So, but, just working to get what we want when we want it isn't really the cause of happiness. Because that's very, very limited. Because as we were saying yesterday, sometimes we get what we want, then it's not satisfactory. We feel disillusioned afterwards. It's not as good as it was supposed to be. Or we get what we want and we're separated from it. Yeah, so that's not really the cause of happiness. It may bring us a little temporary relief, but it's not going to bring anything stable. Whereas if we keep ethical conduct and practice generosity and fortitude, then those are more stable causes of happiness. Okay? Because when we speak about karma, karma here meaning volitional actions, then the generosity is the cause of wealth. In America nowadays, generosity, we think, is going to make us poor. Yeah. Buying stuff will make us rich, but giving the money to somebody else will make us poor. We have a strange way of thinking, don't we? I've got to hold on to what I have, lest I don't have it and I need it at some point. And it's quite remarkable that when people are impoverished, they often tend to be more generous. Yeah? When you have nothing and you're living, or when you have very little and you're living with other people who have very little, everybody's much more inclined to share because they see everybody needs. When we step up a little bit, then we want to protect ourselves from being poor again. So I don't know if I should give or not. It's strange. It's a strange mental state how we are. But actually, when we understand karma and what the real cause of wealth is, over lifetimes, we see that generosity is the cause of wealth. Yeah? And you can understand it from an internal point of view, that when we are genuinely generous, we feel really happy. When we can give something and we know somebody else benefits, it brings a lot of happiness in our own hearts. They've done some studies on this and have found that, people are much happier when they can just give and know that it does good for somebody else. Yeah? So we have to really believe in that and trust our own experience and not fall into this kind of fear of, if I give, I won't have it. Because actually the generosity itself is the cause of the wealth. And then other causes of happiness are ethical conduct. Okay, so refraining from killing or stealing or unwise sexual behavior. Yeah, refraining from lying or creating disharmony or using harsh words or gossip. Yeah, refraining from planning how to talk somebody else into giving us what we want, or how to take our revenge on somebody else, or just, ruminating in wrong views. So, ethical conduct is, steers our mind in the right direction and steers our body and speech to follow a virtuous state of mind. And so karmically, that brings about good conditions for us. Yeah? Whereas when we act unethically, it leaves, what we call karmic imprints or karmic seeds in our mind stream that will, bring about uncomfortable and painful situations in the future. When we keep good ethical conduct, it leaves virtuous, seeds of virtue in our mind that will bring about good circumstances in the future. Yeah. So instead of just looking at the short-term result of, I robbed a bank and now I'm rich, isn't that wonderful? And I didn't get caught. Then thinking long-term about, well, what does, robbing the bank do to my mind stream? What kind of imprints am I putting on my mind stream? What's happening to my sense of integrity when I act in this way? Okay? So we may not rob a bank, but we often steal in other ways. We borrow things and don't return them. So we avoid paying taxes and fees that we're supposed to pay. We, do all sorts of stuff. So, just to be aware of what our ethical conduct is, and to see that keeping good ethical conduct plants the seeds for happiness in future lives, and it creates the cause to have a peaceful mind in this life. Because when we act with integrity and keep our ethical conduct, then when we go to bed at night, there's no fear, there's no doubt, there's no regret. Whereas when we do things that aren't ethical, there's always at the back of our mind, well, what if somebody finds out and I get in trouble? Or, gee, I know what I did and it's not really something very good. yeah, and affects how we feel about ourselves. Okay? So when we wish sentient beings to have happiness and the causes of happiness, we're wishing them not only worldly happiness, may they have food and clothing and shelter and friends and a job and this kind of stuff, but maybe they have inner peace that come about through Dharma practice. And when we wish them the causes of happiness, we wish them, may they have a generous heart, may they keep good ethical conduct, may they practice the Dharma, may they develop fortitude so that they don't fall prey to anger and resentment, thereby creating more destructive karma. Okay? So, may they generate wisdom that will free them from cyclic existence. May they generate compassion, which enables them to connect with all living beings. So really thinking of, the broad way of, what is the cause of happiness. It's not just a big bank account and, a nice house and your children and everything like that. It's what you do with your mind, and because that's going to create the cause for long-term happiness or long-term suffering, depending on what we do. And so when we wish sentient beings happiness, wanting them to be able to create those causes of long-term happiness. Okay? And when we really want that for others, then we stop encouraging them to do non-virtuous actions right now. Yeah, because a lot of times, in the name of loving somebody, we encourage them to create destructive karma. Yeah? Oh, you can do that business deal, and it's not quite above board, but, no big risk, and it can bring a lot of money for the family, so go ahead. But, we're encouraging people to maybe do something under the table. Or we encourage people to lie, to say what's not true, either as an excuse so that we don't have to do something unpleasant, or to get something that we want or that we want for the family. So again, if we really want people to have happiness and its causes, not to encourage them to cheat or to lie or, to talk people, to manipulate other people, things like that. But instead really encourage them to be generous, to be ethical, to cultivate patience, to cultivate fortitude, and so on. And that's a real way of helping people. Lots of times people say, oh, my relative died, please will you do prayers that they have a good rebirth. And of course we do prayers that, for people whose friends and relatives pass away. But the real way to help your friend and relative to have a good rebirth is to encourage them to do virtue while they're alive. Then they've created their own causes of happiness that are in their mind. And that works a lot better than other people praying for them afterwards. Is having them do the virtuous actions themselves. I was very impressed that this one woman, who we've known for a while, recently made a donation to the Abbey for Chenrezig Hall, and she had pledged a certain amount, and she had given like most of it, but she said, I've asked my 2 children to give the rest of it. And I thought, this is one smart mother who really cares about her kids, And sure enough, the kids gave the remaining amount. And in that way, she encouraged her children to be generous. Yeah. And I just thought it was so sweet the way she did it, And so sweet the way that the children, respected their mother and thought, okay, she's telling me to do this for some reason, and and being trained in that way. Yeah. We had another little incident with in Singapore. We, some of our friends have little kids, yeah. So on Chinese New Year, one of the little boys, he must have been 4? Huh?
This last time, he's 8 or something.
Oh no, Gellick's not 8.
Sounds like he's just teeny, but he's older than 6.
Well, he's somewhere under 8. But anyway, he, at Chinese New Year, they give these red packets of money to the kids. So he took one of his red packets that had $20 in it, and he gave it to the Abbey. And it was so sweet. I mean, just so sweet. This child from his own side, did it. And we asked him, well, why did you do it? And he gave a few reasons, and one of them was, Mommy and Daddy give to the Abbey. Yeah? So I thought, this is a really good example of how relatives encourage the people they love to create virtue, which is going to help them in this life and future lives. Yeah, rather than encouraging our relatives to, oh, don't give that away, let's use it so we can go on vacation, or, just tell this lie and then, we'll get some more money for the family or something like that. There was none of that. It was really teaching the kids how to be kind. I was very impressed with that. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's 8. Because Chong Yan is 10 or 11, maybe 12.
Maybe 13 or 14.
No. Maybe 12. I should make Gellick 6. So then a little bit about the meditation on love. Okay, when we do the meditation on love, we begin with somebody for whom we have positive feelings, but somebody that we're not attached to. Okay, so this is usually somebody like a teacher or a mentor, or a senior friend or someone like that. We don't start with somebody that we have attachment to, because then in cultivating love it gets mixed up with the attachment. Okay, and we especially don't start meditating on love with somebody that we're sexually attracted to, because that just gets completely crazy. Okay, so it's usually with somebody, they recommend a teacher or a mentor, somebody you have positive feelings about, somebody you respect, but there's no sticky feelings towards. Okay. And it's important to, at the beginning, excuse me, it's important to really think of specific people when we're cultivating love. Otherwise, if we go directly to kind of all sentient beings, then it becomes very amorphous. Yeah, and it becomes, easy to love somebody that we don't live with, who's across the ocean. Yeah, we can have, love for thousands of people in, I don't know where, what country you want. yeah, but for the person we live with, yeah, it's sometimes more difficult. Or for the people we work with, it's often more difficult. So we want to really think about specific people. But at the beginning, we start with somebody that it's easy to generate love for. So, like I said, a teacher or a mentor of some sort. And there's many phrases that we can use in the meditation. One of them here was, may you be happy and free of suffering. May you be free from hostility, afflictions, and anxiety, and live happily. Okay, so that's one way to phrase it, And here you would imagine that person in the space in front of you, and then really meditate thinking, may you be happy and free of suffering. And really think of what happiness means, what freedom of suffering means. What are those causes? And wishing that for that person. Yeah. And then thinking, may you be free of hostility and anger. Yeah. May you be free of all the other mental afflictions. May you be free of anxiety and fear and worry. Yeah. May you live happily and peacefully with others. And then we can also extend our Dharma wishes, because, whatever things impede you on your path, may you be free from them. Yeah. May all your virtuous aspirations come about without, very easily. And so just generating these positive wishes towards that person that we've visualized in the space in front of us. And as we generate these positive wishes, yeah, then you can feel a change in your mind. That your mind is changing as you're really doing this, and really from your heart wishing that, and kind of even imagining that person having whatever it is that you're wishing for them. Just a second. This is something here. When I was talking about, we don't need to say that. Okay, also the people we cultivate love for, and initially should be people who are currently alive, because the people that have passed away aren't in the form that we knew them, so it may be harder to cultivate love. But of course, after we practice for a while, then it's good to cultivate love also for people who are deceased. Okay, now sometimes some people, so you start with cultivating love for the mentor or the teacher. From there, you can move on to cultivating it towards people that you normally care for, that you may have some attachment for. But again, think those same thoughts. May you be happy and free of suffering. May you be free from hostility and affliction and anxiety. May you live happily. But make sure that when we're cultivating it towards people that we already know and are fond of, that it's not going into the extreme of getting attached to them, and clinging to them, being partial towards them and against other people. Okay? Then from there, we go on to cultivate love for strangers. So you might just pick somebody who is a stranger. Somebody at the gas station or the checkout counter in the supermarket, or somebody else who works in your factory or your office, and that you know, I mean, you've seen, but you don't really know them. They're a stranger. Somebody on the subway. And cultivate love for that person. You know, really remembering that the person, the people who are strangers, have their own lives. They have feelings. They have lives just like we do. They aren't just obstacle posts in our way as we're trying to navigate town and get where we want. You know, they're real living beings who have been kind to us in the past and will continue to be kind to us. And so really wishing well for all those people who are strangers. And then after that, going on to people who have harmed us, or people we feel threatened by, people we don't trust. Yeah. They could be people we know, they could be people we don't know, different world leaders or, whoever. And again, may you be happy and free of suffering. May you be free from hostility, affliction, and anxiety. May you live happily. Yeah. And all the other wishes we want to add on to that. Okay. And then from there, we then go to different groups of people. So there may be groups of people who share a common characteristic, or it may just be groups of people, in the north, and then people in the east, and in the south, and the west, and in the intermediate directions, and all. And so picking directions and, expanding our love towards all of them. And also thinking of living beings in different realms. Don't let our love just be confined to human beings. Think of the animals. Yeah. And may all the animals who are being used as beasts of burden and, and who are exploited, may they be free of suffering. And may they even be free of the lower rebirths that, are a result of their negative karma, but that keep them locked in that kind of suffering condition. And think of all the different living beings, some who are less fortunate than we are, some who are more fortunate than we are, in a worldly sense, but wishing them all well. Because it's important to remember that just because people have a lot of money, that doesn't mean they're necessarily happy. Yeah. So, to really cut out the bias. Sometimes we're more biased towards rich people, sometimes we're more biased towards poor people. We may be biased wanting cats and dogs to be, to have happiness in its causes, but we certainly don't want cockroaches, to have happiness in its causes. But remember that the happiness you wish that different living beings doesn't have to be limited to this life. And cockroaches can live happily ever after somewhere else besides your kitchen. Yeah. I had one friend who lived in San Francisco. She had so many cockroaches in her flat. She used to call them my future life's disciples. Because she thought, someday when, I'm more proficient in the Dharma, I'll have a karmic link with these beings and, may they be my disciples. May I continue to feed them. Yeah, but really breaking down the barriers in our own mind that exist towards or against different people. Some people say that they find a great deal of difficulty generating love for themselves because somehow they feel unworthy, They feel guilty, they feel full of shame, that they don't deserve happiness and its causes. And so it's quite important, I think, to be able to generate this, some kind of love towards ourselves. Because again, if we love everybody else but not ourselves, there's some partiality, isn't there? And again, I'm more special than everybody else. I'm the only one I don't love. I mean, it's just another form of self-centeredness, isn't it? And so too is, having deep feelings of shame and unworthiness. These are just different manifestations of self-centeredness. Why are we any worse than anybody else? I mean, it's interesting to have a conversation with yourself sometimes when you're in the middle of, all this guilt and like self-deprecation. To have a little conversation, And so one mind says, but I'm so guilty and full of shame and unworthy. And then you say, why? Well, because I did this and this and this and this. Well, why does that make you unworthy of having happiness? Doesn't everybody want happiness? Doesn't everybody deserve happiness? Yes, but I did so many awful things. You did more awful things than anybody else? Yes. What did you do? I stole my brother's piggy bank. Come on now. I mean, really to have a little discussion with ourselves. And instead of just believing the mind that says I'm worthless, challenge that mind and say, prove it to me. Prove it to me that you're worthless, that you're more worthless than anybody else. Yeah? And then you have a little debate with that mind. And because you see that mind doesn't have anything really solid to stand on. Except your brother's piggy bank, which is, come on now. I lied to my mother and father. Nobody else has lied to their mother and father? You're going to be unique if you haven't lied to your mother and father. Yeah? So to be able to extend some forgiveness towards ourselves and some love towards ourselves, wanting ourselves to have happiness and its causes. Why not? We're a living being like everybody else. We want to be happy and free of suffering like everybody else. We have the Buddha nature like everybody else. There is nothing special about us that does not deserve happiness and its causes while everybody else does. Okay? So we have to kind of, overcome by challenging that self-deprecating mind. And because it's really speaking stupidagios, isn't it? Huh? Okay, so we meditate on love in this way, starting with a teacher or a mentor, then to the people we're close to strangers, to enemies, to different groups of people in different realms of rebirth, or different groups of people in different directions. Okay? And really, in our heart, wish them well. Now, sometimes it may happen that we go, well, I don't really want to wish them well. They hurt me. I kind of want them to go to hell. And then, again, challenge that mind. Well, if they go to hell, what good is that going to do you? How do you benefit from somebody else experiencing suffering? Well, then they'll know how much they hurt me. Really? You think that when somebody else is suffering, they're going to think of you and how much they hurt you and regret it? When you're suffering, do you think about all the people you hurt and regret it? Okay. So, we just keep challenging these thoughts that have these kind of ridiculous ways of thinking in them. Mm-hmm. Or sometimes the mind says, well, I don't want them to be happy because then they'll be better than me. Yeah? So there's jealousy there. Now, somebody else may be a little bit better than we are now, or we may fear that they may become better, so we don't really want to wish them happiness that it causes, because then they might actually be better, and then we'll be worse. And then to ask ourselves, well, what's the problem with them being better? Yeah, how are you going to lose out if they're better than you? Well, then they'll get the promotion and I won't. Well, that's good. Then they get to work 16-hour days and you don't have to. Yeah. Then my husband will love her and not me. That's okay. Then she gets to do his dirty laundry. You don't have to. Yeah. And if he finds happiness in another way, let him be happy. You can find happiness in another way yourself. Our happiness doesn't need to be tied with clinging attachment to another individual. Okay? So really, and I think especially, when there's jealousy, I don't want somebody to be better than me, to really think, actually, it's good that people are better than me. Yeah, because if people are better than me, then I have people I can learn from. Then there's people who can fix my mistakes. Then there's the people who can do things that I'm unable to do. And that's good. I'm not able to do everything. And that doesn't mean I'm a failure. Just because I don't know how to do everything, it doesn't mean I'm a failure. I do what I can do. And that's my contribution to society and humanity. And I'm happy about that. And I'm glad other people have talents that I don't have, so that they can contribute those talents. Yeah? Because again, if I'm the best that this planet has, we're not going to have Chenrezig Hall. We're going to be living in teepees with no electricity and no plumbing, because I don't know how to do those. In fact, I don't think I even know how to build a teepee properly. So it's actually quite good that there's people who know more than I do and are better than me. They know how to build the teepees and Chenrezig Hall. And that's good, because to tell you the truth, I don't really feel like building teepees and Chenrezig Hall. There's other things that I enjoy doing more. So I'm glad there's people who enjoy doing these things. And I'm glad they know more than I do. And I'll do the things that I enjoy that can be my offering that will hopefully reciprocate and benefit those people who are building, my teepees and my Chenrezig Halls. Okay? So, to see we can still wish all those people happiness. That it's not a competition to see who's happier and who's best. That's not what life is about. You become happy, you become best, and so what? Yeah, all these people want to be best, so you're best, so what? then actually you have much more anxiety, because how are you going to maintain that status of being best? It's very difficult to maintain the status of being best in whatever field it is when you're getting older and losing your memory and everything else. Yeah. So if all of our self-esteem hinges on being best, we're setting ourselves up for a lot of depression. Because how are we ever going to hold on to being best? And what does best mean anyway? Best for who? In what? You know, I'm the best cook. For who? What kind of food do you make? Well, many people aren't going to like that kind of food. So are you the best cook for everybody? Okay? So whatever it is, to see that, you know, there's no reason to be so arrogant and competitive. You know, it's much more valuable and much more satisfying also for our own happiness to wish everybody well and to wish everybody success. And isn't that kind of liberating when you can really, from your heart, wish everybody success and wish everybody well? Doesn't your own heart feel much freer? Not so constricted and anxious and fearful? Mm-hmm. So, you know, I mean, we just keep dismantling this self-centered thought and cultivating love, thinking all these positive thoughts, and really, from our heart, genuinely wishing them for others. Really transforms our own mind. Yeah, we're the chief beneficiary of cultivating love. Now, others are secondary beneficiaries. And you know, other people do appreciate being around somebody who has loving kindness. And I think we all do, don't we? You pick up the vibes of the person. You can see if they have some kind of internal peace and loving kindness. I mean, people who aren't even Buddhists, they tell me sometimes they go to a public talk, you know, by the Dalai Lama, and His Holiness just walks in the room and they're choked up. Yeah. Just his presence speaks to people. So wouldn't it be wonderful if we could be like that and not have any attachment to being like that? Yeah. His Holiness doesn't walk around and go, well, you know, when I walk into rooms. Yeah. So, yeah, but you know, we all have the potential to become like that for other people. Mm-hmm. And especially if you're in a helping profession, but actually whatever job we do, if we have an attitude of love and an attitude of kindness and friendliness, it's going to change the whole workplace. Yeah. Totally changes the workplace. It changes the family. If one member of the family changes, everybody else has to change. Huh? So it can be very, very powerful. We shouldn't poo-poo the power of cultivating virtuous thoughts. You know, in the same way that you were saying yesterday, the power of cultivating victim thoughts. You know? So if victim thoughts can be that powerful, loving thoughts can also be very powerful. So we really make an attempt to generate these. And whenever you're in a situation where you notice that your mind is critical of someone, switch it and begin doing this meditation on love, wishing them well, wishing to have whatever it is they need, wishing them to be free of their afflictions and their ignorance and confusion and so on. Mm-hmm. And then, that replaces the critical, judgmental mind. Now, when you start in berating yourself, replace it with kind thoughts towards yourself. You can notice a negative thought, and you don't have to follow it. You don't have to keep thinking of it, about it. You switch your attention to something else. Mm-hmm. So, questions, comments?
When I'm doing this meditation, I start with myself first, and then go on. Another thing is, sometimes if I'm not really in that is such a good mental condition, then I put the Buddha in front of me, and he supports me. So giving some streams of light, and also he supports me if I, for example, do this meditation for enemies or strangers, like streams of light, I'm also going into this other person, so I'm purifying all the negativities and so on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So some people like to start the loving kindness meditation with themselves, but it's not mandatory in any ways. If you find it helps you to do that, do that. Otherwise start with the mentor, the teacher. And the thing of, like you said, when you're in a bad mood, of imagining before you do the loving kindness meditation, imagining the Buddha and the Buddha's light flowing into you, then that can help transform your own mood. Mm-hmm. And if you're extending love towards others, you can also visualize the Buddha on their head with light from the Buddha flowing into them. Yeah. But again, what you really want to do is cultivate your own virtuous, positive thoughts. But thinking of that person as having a connection to the Buddha is one way of really wishing them to have the causes of happiness. Mm-hmm.
I find the word friendly, or friendliness, it's hard for me to put that together with the description yesterday.
Yes, that's because there's difficulty in translating, and the word friendliness isn't a very good word for the description of what we're trying to do. Yeah.
The word, when we think of how we talk about having love and wanting someone to have happiness, that works. But when I hear the word friendly, what I realized was the problem was I think of agreeable.
Oh, okay.
What happens, even in what you expressed earlier, like sometimes when people are opposing your views or this and that, we have these kind of conversations and things get tense in that way, it really comes down to the motivation that's in the mind. And you could have a friendly motivation in the mind, I think. I mean, I don't think I'd be so skilled to have that, but I think it's possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why, these things, we're so often dealing with translations, and the words aren't exact. It's interesting because you associate friendly with agreeable. I associate friendly with cheerful. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so all of those kinds of associations are not actually the meaning of what somebody's trying to get across here by saying it has the aspect of friendliness. It's maybe a better word would be a positive attitude. Yeah, or an open heart. Although, I told you I told you about the book on compassion I'm doing. Well, the editors in UK, they don't seem to understand expressions such as have an open heart. or live from your heart. Every time the word heart appears, they marked it in red and said, what does this mean? So I don't know if it's just people in Britain, or if it's all people in Britain, or if it's just the editors.
Maybe they like friendly.
Maybe they like friendly, yes. Yeah, but anything with the word, be true to your own heart, live from your heart. They didn't like any of those words. Yeah.
When I think of the word friendly, I think of like when we put someone in the friend category, it's because they wish us well. And I think that might be more with that.
Yeah, right.
We approach it with we wish people well.
Right.
Well into the situation.
Yeah, that's exactly the meaning, of wishing somebody well, having a positive attitude. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that we're talking about this, because I noticed in my mind yesterday, I was thinking to myself, I noticed myself walking, am I being friendly? And so I said, am I being friendly? And I don't want to be clinging, looking at this person. And I had this argument in my head about if I'm friendly or not.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here thinking, well, if I can conceptualize it like loving kindness, that feels,
Right.
can embody that.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I noticed yesterday I was
Yeah, no, this is good we're having it because I'm also writing something else and I'm going to take the word friendly out of there. No, because it is misleading. Because even, somebody could have very positive attitudes and very kind to others, but be quite introverted. Yeah. So
I really appreciated the word friendly. I thought it was so
yeah.
so helpful. Yeah. Because I was thinking about what a friend is someone who can challenge you and who can. I was thinking about when I'm feeling down or something. Someone has a friendly attitude towards me. It's not like they're trying to cheer me up. They're just trying to listen to me, and and I think that's what I associated with friendliness, and it was really helpful.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? How we all have different associations with one word, and
yeah, I think the friendliness that you're talking about, I always think of that as being congenial or superficial or something like that. Yeah.
Accommodating, yeah. Yeah.
So I was actually thinking about the phrase like enemy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about yesterday when there was a conversation about people who were trying to help you and put them in the enemy category. And one of the things that you said was the people who are trying to help us, they kind of recognize what's up with you, and the phrase you used was the game is over. And so I don't know if you remember you saying that.
Did I?
Yeah, you used the game is over, people can see where you're really coming from, where all of your little faults are and stuff you've been trying to hide. And so for me what happened was that I was thinking about so many things from yesterday, and then I was going through my notes. I hadn't thought about that. Then I saw my notes and I saw that, and I started getting angry actually when I saw that, and I kind of realized that kind of what people are talking about when people are really calling on your stuff. One of the things for me that will come up is anger. So just looking at that, I started getting angry and going, oh, I guess I got something to work on. But I just thought it was very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I mean, we see it in our own experience, don't we? People try to help and we get, how dare you notice my fault? Yeah.
I have a dear Abbey. I've been involved with a person that I didn't have any desire to be around when he offered to do some work for me. I saw him as one of those precious gems, a person with great destructive nature and was just buried in bad stuff. So I've been working with that, but as the further we keep, somehow it's gone on much longer than anticipated. Yeah, and so we get into this whole sticky stuff, I start thinking, well, this is part of my life. This person has to stay here. You know, and so I'm looking at love versus attachment all over again.
What, you're saying this person that you didn't like, now you're
Like, and now I've become very
fond of?
Yes, as I understand the things that have happened to him, and the reason why he was that way, the karma that has ripened in one lifetime was more than anybody should bear, I think. You know, I've done quite a bit. So we have that common, you know, and it just gets, I don't know, but I'm still, even though I still feel it from a the bodhisattva point of view of just, you know, being pleasant and like this, it still sits there all the time. You can't, I don't think you can be in a relationship with a person of the opposite sex and not have that happen. You know, I just am going nuts with it because I'm trying to maintain, I told her right away, it's a no sex thing, you know. But it comes up still. Just the nature of us.
Yeah, yeah.
And I still keep working with that. Trying, so I go through, I've gone through so much of this, and it's just like, I don't know, the desire to be with somebody. And it is, it's a desire realm thing.
Yes.
It's like hard to deal with. Like,
yes.
all of you always see each other, you always expect to see each other. You know, I mean, don't you think, would you, I mean, Semke and Chonya have been living here for a long time. If they were completely separated, wouldn't there not be a feeling of despair at being away?
So what you're saying is that there's attachment to having companions.
That is the first one.
Yeah.
There's actually two different things going on there.
Yeah.
One is just the attachment of your companions and the people that you're used to being with, and wanting them to always like you and be with you because you like that energy. You know? And where does it become attachment?
That's for you to watch your mind. You can be together with Cheryl and be mad at me. Yeah, Tanya?
When you were talking about, you know, your family, your family or your near one, and the whole aspect of encouraging the virtue and not encouraging them to be non-virtuous, especially in the realm of blind. I just thought, what a treasure, and we see is in that, because there's so much of what Martha talks about is how people in relationship encourage each other to lie about their needs and to lie about that they want something, so they do these little dances around it, and how all of that is all, it's all part of that non-virtue, and it's so great to be able to just cut through that and be honest and be truthful in the family.
Yeah. Yeah. Very well.
Sometimes the people we classify as enemies is because they really are trying to be destructive to us, and some people are, and to wish them well is not to wish that they succeed in those endeavors,
right,
but that they become healthy so that they don't.
Exactly. 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 Yeah. Yeah. That, in terms of people who are actually out to do something negative and harmful, for whatever reason. Yeah. That wishing them well doesn't mean we wish that they're successful in their dubious deeds. It means we wish them to have whenever people are acting that way, it's because there's things that they want and they need that they're not getting, and they're so confused they think that by acting that way they can get what it is that they want or need. So when we're wishing them to be happy, we're wishing them to have those needs fulfilled so that they don't have those negative motivations and attitudes towards others. Okay, so wouldn't it, like if we use the example of terrorists, you know, wouldn't it, we wish, you know, may they have self-respect. Yeah. May they have respect for their own culture and other people's cultures. May they be free of the anger that and resentment that torments them. Yeah. And whatever it is, you know, people have a zillion reasons for being terrorists, you know. May they have the economic opportunities that they want, or may they have the freedom in their country that they want, or, you know, may they have the attention that they want, but in a virtuous way. Yeah. And so dealing with the actual needs of those people is what love is doing, not with wanting their you know, destructive deeds to be successful. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to try to get this out of the question, but you were talking about competitiveness, and my whole life is just about drive, you know, to succeed in my business. I'm trying to figure out how to maintain a drive, you know, to do what I do well in life, but not to have that go into some more of the harmful, competitive.
Yeah. Okay. So how to have drive and go forward with things, your career, your life, or whatever, but without having the negativity that comes from competition and wanting to put somebody else down and put yourself up and win. And
especially in a commercial environment where
yeah.
I only do well when I do put someone else down. Putting them down, but doing something better than that.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I think that part of it has to do with your motivation. Not so, instead of the motivation being, you know, may I win, may I be victorious, may I put them down and, you know, do better than them. Whatever it is, instead of thinking about your competitors, think about your clients and your customers, and may I do something and create a product that is really beneficial for them. May I benefit these people, you know, and really help them through whatever it is they need that I'm able to provide. Yeah, and so just the wish to help them helps you to do your work better and do your work honestly. And you don't have to do your work in that way by competing with somebody else. You do it with an attitude of service towards the customer. Yeah. And you'll actually do better, I think, you know, when you really think of the welfare of the person you're serving through your work, that comes through in your work, and the other person feels that you really care about them. And, you know, when people feel like you care about them, they're going to come back to you for business again and again. Yeah.
And recommend you to others.
And recommend you to others, definitely. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I wanted to thank you for your comments yesterday on 9/11, actually, because it brought me back to, I was 18 when it happened, and I was in Singapore watching the event from afar, and it was just very distressing and shocking as a young person. And what you said yesterday was just what I wish an adult had said. It was an opportunity for reflection for not just America but also the world. Yeah, and I think back then I remember it really shook up my idea of America, because I had grown up with, exposed to American culture, and it was just really quite shocking to see what I had imagined was a free press, like really quite awful headlines, and yeah, so that really made me rethink. And coming here to study and meeting people whose minds were entirely closed off to discussion. I remember a friend who was a Republican senator's son who could not entertain the idea of challenging the war at all. And that was also a shock to me. So I never had that space for dialogue. I guess I feel like a lot of times history just moves so quickly, the world becomes polarized. Even a small country like Singapore has to take sides because we are an American naval base, and there's just no space for that national reflection. So I thought that was really important. I guess for all nations actually to have that space to reflect.
Yeah.
It's so hard at the national level to admit we have done something wrong or we have hurt other people.
Yep. Yep.
We don't actually know how to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is a rather selfish question, but one of the things that I'm going to go home with tremendous gratitude is what I can impart on my young children. And I know you have a program for teenagers, but I look at my young kids and everything we've been talking about with particular respect to checklists and competition, I'm seeing it already in my young children. So I'll give you 2 examples. The first is I scolded my 6-year-old for something that she has done repetitively, and it was very difficult. It was one of those things where I was mindful, but I was firm. And her reaction to me was, "Do you still love me?" And so coming here and listening to these Dharma talks, I thought, oh my goodness, already she's entertaining. I have to behave a certain way to meet my mother's checklist, and she's developing a checklist for herself, and she's 6. And then with respect to today's conversation about competition, it's fascinating in my older elementary age children where the encouragement they get is out of both sides of their mouths. It's not important that you win, it's so important that you just have fun. Win, win, win. And I have very little tolerance for competition. I mean, I just want everybody to win, and so I'm almost resistant to let my kids participate in these activities because they're so muddled. And so I would love to see my kids, and obviously other young kids too, to have this kind of infusion, and so I'm just maybe planting a seed.
Yeah. I hope the seed's also in your mind. Yeah, because and becoming aware of these kinds of things that occur, and how to communicate them to your children and communicate them to your kids' friends. Yeah. And, maybe even think of, a children's book with these kinds of themes in them, How could you make a story that a kid would be interested in with these kinds of themes? Or if you're an artist, or something, how could you create a game?
Wow.
Yeah. So let's think creatively of different ways to teach this to young kids.
One thing I was impressed with, you told me the story with a little more information about this thing with your 6-year-old, and I was so impressed with the amount of the kind of conversations that you have had with your child. I don't think I ever had a conversation like that in my life growing up. So I was thinking with what you're talking about now is something that allows for there to be communication, like a game where you talk about things.
Right.
Talk about these things. That was like non-existent in my
Yeah.
That's very good. I think my middle child would love that. She wrote a paper on one of her homework assignments, and it was a story about a young boy who had made a bad choice and kind of lied to his parents. And so the assignment was, is this something that you would do, lying to your parents? And Arya, my daughter, wrote, no, I wouldn't, because that would mean I would have to go sit on the couch and have a long L-O-O-O-O-N-N-N-N-G-G-G-G talk.
difficult thing. I know where you're coming from. But I think the hard, and listening to some of this, and a lot of what I've been thinking about with this talk is, how to love your children well, and how to love your children with wisdom. And I think one of the hardest things that I feel is going to be, as my children get older, allowing them to fail. And allowing them to not just fail a little bit so that they see what could happen if they actually fail, but really allowing them to fail. And I guess that's something that I'm feeling with this is, that's not incongruous with loving them. It's incongruous with being attached to them.
Yeah.
But if I want them to be happy, I've got to let them hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to let them learn for themselves. But remember that that failure is not a hard and fast category, and how you define failure, somebody else may not.
Right.
Yeah. So be careful where you put the word failure. Yeah. Because failure just means doing something you don't want them to do.
I was thinking more about it when they want something and they don't get it. It's, from their side.
Oh, okay.
They're striving for something, it doesn't work out and it fails, and I'm just going to have to watch them go through that.
Through that and say, what can you learn?
I can't really do anything other than offer.
Yeah.
But I can't.
But you can ask them questions, what did you learn from this? Yeah, I think the role of parents then is to really come in without criticism or judgment, but with the questions that can help a child learn from their own experience, and without blaming others. If you come in and that wasn't fair, and you're innocent and they're guilty, but how to work with situations and problems in the world.
So I guess then a follow-up to that, at some point then, you mentioned yesterday in your example of, do bad to the sidewalk if it hurts you, something like that.
Yeah.
Cracks me up. That was not part of my vocabulary until yesterday. but at some point, though, with your child, there's a point where you have to kind of basically tell them it's their fault. And
maybe not.
Loaded term.
Yes.
And I'm not just trusting everybody to see through those and forgive my lack of ability to use unloaded terms. But it's important that they have to take responsibility. That they're responsible for the repercussions of their actions. But kids don't always immediately make that connection themselves.
Right.
And so I find it really difficult as a parent to, when my child does something like that, and responsibilities, connecting the dots for them, helping them to connect those dots.
Right.
It feels mean. I mean, it just because that's tough for a child, for an adult, for anybody sometimes to, initially make that connection and truly take responsibility for the repercussions of their actions. And a child, they're young and they haven't necessarily developed or
I think it depends upon the age of the child, because before kids can make that kind of discrimination, you need to tell them what to do, and you need to explain the repercussions to them, when they're too young to be able to understand that and discern it for themselves. As they get older, then you start asking questions and having discussions with them before they fall down. And you can talk about what different people do or what their friends do, and, kind of people do this and what kind of, what does it bring, and people do that and what does it bring. And so you have those discussions so they begin to see causality. And then, of course, as the kids get older still, they're individuals, and they're not even going to tell you what they do sometimes, and they're going to fall down, and you'll find out about it afterwards. And then to be able to discuss with them in a non-judgmental way, kind of, well, what were you thinking beforehand, and what results did you think would come out of that strategy? And did those results come out? And, well, clearly no. So what do you think would bring about the kinds of results that you want? And I think that the important thing is to really keep the dialogue going so that there's space. Because, we all fall down, don't we? And when we fall down, it's so nice to have somebody that we trust that we can go to help us process it. Yeah. Somebody else, that person may help us see the causal links, and help us take responsibility, but they're not going to judge us and tell us we were stupid and that we disappointed them and, that kind of thing. So I think a lot of it is, according to the age of the child, but the basic thing is to keep the communication door open. Yeah. And to do that, you really have to let go of a lot of your expectations for your kids. Yeah. Because, parents have lived through this and that, and you don't want your kids to have to live through it, and you want them to have everything that you didn't have and none of the problems that you had, and you also want them to be everything you weren't able to become, whether they want to be that or not. So, you have to kind of hold yourself back sometimes from living through this child. Thinking, if my son becomes a football star, then I'll feel okay about not doing it myself. Well, maybe he doesn't want to be a football star. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this will be the last question, by the way.
Just because I deal with children, also will answer Sean's question about competitiveness, because I teach competitive swimming, and then I always focus on perseverance, endurance, safety. If you win the race, if you win it's okay, if you don't win but finish the race, because I'm supposed to teach them competitive swimming in school. And there's this kid, Petra, she was put in the top swimmers list. She's only 6, very good swimmer, but she can't speed. So I say that, just finish the race, And she said, Miss Caris, I don't want to compete because, I'll be the last one. So I teach them virtues. I teach them virtues.
Yeah.
I just want you to persevere. I want you to learn water safety, and then don't put so much on competitiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I put in virtues instead
of winning.
No, it's focus. Where do you don't look at your other swimmers. When you walk, you look at your own feet. When you swim, it's the same. You're just watching yourself. You don't watch your friend whether he's behind you or in front of you. So I don't know whether that helps, because I was teaching in this Catholic schools, and every week they have a virtue. Like this week will be confidence, then next week will be perseverance, and then the next week will be loving kindness, or humility. So I will bring in virtues when I teach. I will teach them to
that's very nice.
To finish the race, not and I tell them that Miss Caris is not the first swimmer. I take part in competition. I've never been any competition, but I'm a lifeguard. I swim. I can swim 50 laps with a lot of stamina. I save lives. I teach people to be water safe. So I switch the whole thing, the whole mindset.
Yeah.
Actually, when you swim, is for a healthy body, for you to be water safe, so that you can also teach other people to be water safe.
Yeah.
So everybody benefits. It's not about winning.
Yes.
Yeah, winning is just one part.
Yeah. That's very nice. Very nice.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's good, it's a good thing about how, I like that idea in the Catholic schools, kind of focusing on one virtue every week. That's quite nice with children to do, isn't it? Yeah, except not shoving it down their throat, but including that in how you relate to them. It's a very, very good idea. Okay, let's dedicate.